Each morning, real RSI setups are broken down with entry strategies and the technical reasoning behind every trade. This is RSI Trade of the Day with Verified Investing.
Welcome to the RSI Trade of the Day. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing with another exciting show. We had some stocks that were ripping like Serve Robotics, SERV, but then we had some that were beaten up like Ferrari, RACE was getting crushed, and also Helen of Troy. So I have my trade of the day that's going on a little bit later, so you want to stay tuned for that. But this stock has been beaten up over the last day. And it's going to be in some really key support. So you guys don't want to miss that. First off, let's go ahead and start with our RSI trade recap. So yesterday I gave an upside target on Robinhood. I had mentioned that this had the potential to go up and then it eventually pull back because of the relative strength index is continuing to create some negative RSI divergence. However, it wasn't until late afternoon that the the price action actually hit that level. And my rule is if it doesn't hit there by about noon, then that trade is off the table. It would have played out, but I'm going to go ahead and go over that chart with you guys and show you what I'm seeing. Okay, so Robinhood right here, I had mentioned that around $152, this red bar candle was where I'm going to enter this trade based on the fact that the previous day indicated that there should be additional upside. Well, if you go to the intraday from yesterday, we actually had this decent sell-off at the morning. So it got up to $151 and then had about a 3% pullback. Now, it wasn't until in the afternoon, right around 250 that it got up to this level around $152 and then got this pullback. So again, this trade would have been off the table. For me, this is still creating some positive momentum for the stock, indicating that there still could be a little bit more potential upside. So for Robinhood, now I would say my entry price, if I was going to retrade this, would be at $153.86. This is where Robinhood is likely to stop out. And the reason or not stop out, but this is where it's likely to get a pretty substantial pullback. Look at the RSI on the daily time frame. It's creating this negative RSI divergence, as well as this upswing trend line that I had mentioned yesterday. Once it gets back below that, we're going to have this pretty substantial sell-off, probably back to $127. And then if we can break that, we're coming back down to $101. Robinhood is so overly extended on the daily time frame. The intraday time frame is indicating that the buyers are starting to wane, which means that the sellers can finally start stepping up. Plus, you've got this engulfing reversal candle. So many different factors on why I like this trade. So these are the types of trade setups that wet my whistle and get me super excited about trading technicals. Even though it did break above that upswing trend line, I see this all the time where price action has to get up there, stay up there for a little bit, and then retraces. Okay, and that's a pretty substantial trend line that I see. Intel is another one that I had mentioned a couple days ago that the potential upside target for me would be $40.08. I still like this for an upside. Now, look at what happens. So you've got this Intel chart that price is consolidating, putting in a bull flag. This is telling me that price action is likely to go higher. So you could actually calculate a potential move. So what you can do is you can take this low pivot, basically the flagpole, all the way to the top, and then take it from the low of the flag or the not the flag, but the flag itself, not the flagpole, from the low end. And then so you could have an eventual upside target of $45.78. So I still like this as an intraday play, $40.08. And then your ultimate upside target would be $45.78. That would just be a measured move of this bull flag. And then my upside target is $50 on Intel. Intel, I think, like I said, mentioned based on the RSI being at the lows or the mid area of the chart or the price action, then I think Intel's going higher. Rigetti was another chart that I was looking at. Look at what happened to the RSI intraday. Not a whole lot as far as upward momentum. Started getting below the 30 at about 10:30. And then you had this nice float up. So this indicated that price action was likely to head lower. However, price action decided to reverse that. So RSI doesn't always give you everything that you need to know. It's still got to continue to push below pivots. And then RGTI decided to head a little bit higher. Now, I mentioned a couple days ago about topping tails. This would be an example of a topping tail that is not an official topping tail. It does meet 2 of the 3 criteria, which means that the wick is in the upper 50%. The body itself is in the top 10%. However, the close was not in the lower 25%. So although this is a good doji candle, this is not a topping tail. So for me, Rigetti still is going to potentially go a little bit higher. I had my original level at $50 or appears to $50. That could still be a good potential pullback level, but I would wait for about $52.50 for a pullback for me on Rigetti. Had this been a topping tail, I would say this would be a great opportunity to get into this trade, but it's at this point it's not. So $52.50. It got too close to the $50 level for me. UiPath or UiPath is been a pretty substantial stock on the day. Yesterday, look at what happened. You had RSI that continued high. Then the RSI finally dipped below the 30. But look at price action. It never cleared this low pivot area. And then price just continued to float. It actually stayed really strong on this upswing trend line, where the RSI never got back below the 30. So for me, what I do is I switch to the daily time frame and I say, okay, where's the next resistance level? My trade for today would be $20.67. If Path got to $20.67, this is where I'd likely enter a trade. Now, what I also look for is additional confluence or additional resistance levels. So not only do you have $20.67, but you've got all this price consolidation. If price gets up here, there's a lot of people who are stuck in this trade, and so they're likely to take profits. And you've got another gap fill a little bit higher right here at $21.28, as well as this low pivot right here. So this was more of a minor pivot, but as you can see, it was still a 27 to 30% move from this low pivot, and that corresponds right here with that gap fill. And so this gives me additional information that there could be additional sellers there. Okay, so it's 8:52. I'm just going to go ahead and go into the RSI trade of the day. So I had mentioned HELE, Helen of Troy, got beaten up. So yesterday it was down 25%. And now it did actually clear some support levels, which means that today it's likely to get bounced right around the $20 level. So here is the chart of HELE. Look at the price action yesterday. Intraday, the RSI stayed below the 30, never got above the 70 until 3:30 in the afternoon. So this tells me that you had a lot of sellers that are stuck in HELE and are needing to get out. You do have this one pivot point right here. This was a gap fill at $21.71, where you did get almost a 2% bounce. However, the sellers were too much in force and just continue to push this lower. Now, if the sellers are cleared out of this trade, $20.02 is going to be my RSI trade of the day. So you've got this low pivot area. Not only is this a major pivot low, it's also a gap fill on the charts on HELE. So if price action gets down to $20.02, this is my RSI trade of the day. I love this setup if it can get down there. Now, for more of a swing trade, if you notice the RSI, let me go ahead and readjust this. The RSI on HELE isn't below the the 30. And so for me, for a swing trade basis, this can go even lower. So what I have to do is actually switch to the monthly time frame so I can see where additional support is. So we get below this $20.02 level, then you could potentially get down to $16.93, which is actually, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but if you take this, it's about a 15% drop. So I would wait till $16.93 for a swing trade, knowing that it could go down to this double bottom area if the sellers haven't exhausted themselves yet. Could all go down to $9.60. Now, is it as likely to go down there? Not for me, it's not, but it still could potentially happen. And I've seen charts that defy gravity, but also crush through any support levels. So again, my entry level is $20.02. And like every other trade, if this closes below $20.02 on a 15-minute closing candle, then I'm going to stop out of that trade. And then I'm looking for, based on the fact that it was down 25% yesterday, I would be looking for a 4 to 5% bounce on HELE. So another way you can play this is if it does get a bounce off of $20.02, you could put a stop loss at your entry price. So that way, if price starts going in your favor, you can make sure that you take a break even, like no matter what. So a couple different options to play. And if you guys like this content, please make sure you're sharing with your friends, you're liking, subscribing, ringing that bell so you can get notified 8:15 or 8:45 every day the market is open. And please stay tuned. Gareth Soloway is going to be going live in less than 4 minutes on my trading game plan. So we'll see you guys next time in the charts. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.